Mr. President, I had made a statement, made a comment in the Senate on the 23rd of April, and it had generated some public discourse based on which I had prepared a statement, a personal explanation to address same. And Mr. President, life took a turn, and I had put it down and intended to let sleeping dogs lie, as it were. But in light of a comment which has just been made, or in fact an expectation which has just been stated, I would like to ask for suspension of the standing orders to allow me under Standing Order 18 to make a personal explanation.
Members should have heard the Minister. Those in favor? Aye. Against? Minister.
Mr. President, in relation to comments I made on April 23rd, I wish to make a personal explanation to establish the relevant facts so as to remove any speculation regarding the truth of what I said. I raised the matter in the Senate and had not intended to discuss it any further. I've heard the questions, however, so while the experience was mine as a woman, as a leader in the public service, I do believe that it is appropriate that I answer the question and address the concerns raised here in this Senate. The experience that I shared, as I stated, I had not intended to speak about it publicly. It was an instinctive response to assertions that essentially imputed that politics comes before principle for me, when to the contrary, in sharing the experience, I simply wished to make the point that even where I could have taken actions at a point in time which would have been viewed by some as politically advantageous, I did not. And furthermore, that making decisions on such issues are multifaceted and often deeply personal. I had hoped that the words were phrased in a way that was sufficiently benign so that only my intended point would be taken. The irony is that the very situation which I had wanted to avoid, that is, distraction from bigger issues, has been lost in a question, or rather in discussions, of my personal credibility. So on the emails in question. In 2018, I was sent emails which caused me apprehension of harm. They were sent by a former PNP member of the Senate and were of particular concern in the context of emails which had also been circulated as far back as 2014. Those earlier emails, which had not been addressed to me, but rather other members of the Senate, referenced my public comments on a flexi-rape comment made in the Senate as, I quote, a barefaced lie, I quote, evil, and also asserting, I quote, that lying lips are an abomination. They further asked a colleague to communicate to me, but let your colleague be assured that the evil people do, the big payback is coming, mark my word. These emails, taken with certain physical gestures in the Senate, raised the concern back then to a level that had Senator Tavares Vinson, then leader of opposition business in the Senate, write to the then President of the Senate, Floyd Morris, attaching the emails and reporting the emailer's actions to the then Commissioner of Police and then Prime Minister Portia Simpson Miller. Although the President of the Senate refused to address the matter in the Senate, the author was warned by the police. I did not plan to publish the 2014 emails, which were reported to the police by Senator Tavares Vinson at that time. I understand, however, that someone has shared them with a particular media house and they have written about them. These were not the emails to which I referred 3 weeks ago. I also still do not plan to publish those which I personally reported to the police in 2018. For clarity, however, the emails were sent to me on August 6, 2018 and September 23, 2018. I have decided not to release them as I am not trying to litigate the matter in the court of public opinion, having decided at the relevant time not to take the matter before the court itself. I will, however, share some details simply to support the veracity of the existence of the emails and for your understanding in the context of the threatened big payback which was to come and the odd content of the emails, I felt concerned for my safety. The title of the first was, in caps, Corruption, suspension points, Bruised Karma, largely about matters unrelated to me, but having a section about a gleeful opposition senator mercilessly calling me out for sotto voce mumblings of flexi-rape from my seat. The latter phrase indicated that the flexi-rape debacle was still a concern for this person, and he still saw me at the heart of it. The second mail was of greater concern, and more so given the paragraph from the previous one. It had the subject, in caps, rape, suspension points, real suspension point, rape, ending with the word karma, more to come. I replied only to that email of the 23rd on the same day, advising him to cease and desist from writing to me. I also sent the emails to the police. He responded to my cease and desist request, stating that he would not write further, but in a way which gave no other comfort. He said, "The truth, in caps, is what makes you uncomfortable. Face it, in caps. You will have to live with it uncomfortably. You will never, in caps, be allowed to forget," and stated that he was, and I quote, "satisfied that my message has hit the spot." I therefore shared this response with the police. I had been on government business. I had been away on government business. Shortly after returning to Jamaica, based on their initial review of the emails, I was interviewed by members of the CIB and CISOCA who indicated that they would do their investigations. Subsequently, having been assured that the police were taking the matter seriously and noting for what it was worth, that he said he would not write again and had not since, it was determined that I would take extra precautions for a while, and I advised the police that if he wrote again, I would notify them immediately for the matter to be revisited. As you would be aware, while for obvious reasons, the content of the mails were not recounted, the police have corroborated the existence of mails and their assessment that I had reason to be concerned, as well as my decision not to proceed. Should the PNP wish to publish the emails to which I made reference, they may ask the sender to do so. They now have the dates and the subject headings. The sender's name is their colleague, former Senator A.J. Nicholson. Should he release them, the PNP and Mr. Nicholson may discuss the emails in the public domain and analyze them as they see fit and to their heart's content, but I will not be entering the discussion. Persons have asked questions about my statement. Some were concerned that speaking publicly about my choice not to press charges would encourage other women not to press charges where they were the victims of any threat, harassment, or abuse. I certainly would not want this to result, although my point made about not judging is very real. We need to focus more on the acts of perpetrators and less on the choices of victims. So yes, part of my reason was that I felt fearful. I was concerned that a public revival of all the toxicity of 2014 would put me at risk, especially where this person had clearly held on to strong anger for 4 years. And I did not want political drama, as I said. But in addition, 2018 was a big year for Jamaica and for foreign affairs. This was the year that we were chair of CARICOM, were invited to the BRICS, G7, G20, serving as president of ACP, Council of Ministers, securing the mandate for a new development agreement. We were now into next steps. This required a singularity of focus, as I and my team at the ministry were leading and coordinating these and other efforts. Jamaica had unprecedented access to the world stage, making connections in important fora, forging relationships with global leaders, and applying our foreign policy to the achievement of national development goals. I could not imagine a situation where all of this work would now be overshadowed by local and possibly even international discourse on Jamaica's first female foreign minister pressing charges against a former minister and member of the upper house for cyber threats. As the first woman to hold this role, the last thing that I would have wanted on behalf of all Jamaican women and Jamaicans generally was to have all that work, and yes, my tenure, defined by public dissection of what was fundamentally a personal issue, rather than the groundbreaking work which was being done. In hindsight, I can see that regardless of his clear desire to intimidate, I did not let him have power over my path or have him and his behavior change the focus away from the ministry's achievements under my tenure. I focused on doing what was good for Jamaica. The current debate, it's current when I wrote it, at least. That word. Debate actually vindicates some of the fears I had in not going public at the time. And even my having to write this statement is a demonstration of the challenges women have when confronted by such situations. Mine is, of course, complicated by politics. The reality is that many women in Jamaica do not have the protection I have. And they face challenges much greater than mine. Yet this is what has been discussed. The fear of not being believed or being ridiculed, judged, prevents many women from speaking up. And the political response to my assertion has not helped. We must give women support, confidence, and safe spaces to take action where appropriate. And I use this platform today to say that were I to be confronted with the same situation today, I would probably take a different decision. So as I work within the government to strengthen our institutional protection of women, I encourage women to seek help in taking decisions that remove the power of their abusers, the power of anyone who threatens them. Those decisions are difficult to take on your own. So seek help. If you feel uncomfortable speaking to a friend or a pastor or someone at work, call one of the helplines for an objective view, but take your life in your hands. I want to also specially thank all the women and the men who have reached out to me directly or indirectly by sending messages of support and understanding without any question and without any judgment. I want to say to them, you are what is right with Jamaica. I also want to say that we should not lose sight of the national systemic issues that confront us as a country regarding gender-based violence in all its forms. We had an opportunity to take a unified position. The original statement could have been adjusted or supplemented, but we could have had a unified core. That opportunity was missed, but to me, the point is worth restating.
The minister is making a personal statement. The minister is making a personal statement. The minister is making a personal statement. She is entitled to be heard in silence.
That's subjective.
Point of order, Mr. President. Mr. President, the standing order requires...
Senator Brown,
on the point of order,
Senator Brown, I am entertaining no point of order, particularly from yourself, who has invited this statement today.
No.
So I'm taking no point of order. Minister, continue. Minister, I'm taking none.
I rise on a point of order.
Minister, you will continue.
I rise on a point of order.
Take a point of order on a person.
I rise on a point of order.
Senator Brown.
I rise on a point of order.
Senator Brown, listen to what I'm telling you. The minister is making a statement by way of Section 18,
must not
which is a
abuse their
personal...
standing order.
Fine, excellent. I will determine that.
Mr. President, Mr. President, a point of order. With respect, Mr. President, a personal explanation. No controversial matter may be brought forward.
Mr. Bunting, with the greatest of respect, every personal statement that has been put forward in the Senate in the years that I have been here have been controversial. So that is the practice.
No.
Minister,
it is usually withdrawing something or
Minister will continue and be heard in silence.
Controversial and you're allowed to be heard.
But you know, Mr.
You are the person, Senator Brown, who invited the statement and you are now saying it is biased. You have done enough damage to yourself, the People's National Party and the Senate. Continue.
Mr. President, I actually don't have a difficulty asking that the Hansard remove my last two sentences. They are as they were, but I don't have a difficulty with that. The point is, however, that gender-based violence, whether physical, sexual, verbal,
I'm sorry.
or virtual...
Senator Bunting, I wish to address you briefly. The standing order says no controversial matter. When Senator Brown came here last week to discuss his statement about vigilante and jungle justice, you didn't consider that controversial?
Extremely. Oh, he came here to...
Minister.
Mr. President.
Minister.
With the greatest of respect.
Minister, consider.
Mr. President.
When you using decent language,
That's
the quality.
Mr. President.
Mr. President. With respect.
Thank you very much.
It's
Minister Johnson Smith,
not
continue.
comparable. Senator Brown came here and withdrew the statement. That is not controversial. You approved the statement before.
Senator Bunting, thank you. Minister Johnson Smith, continue. The minister is entitled to be heard in silence. Thank you, Minister. Minister, continue, please. Minister Johnson Smith, please continue.
Twice or three times a week.
I hope this is a I hope, Mr. President, that this next sentence is not viewed as one of controversy. Gender-based violence, whether physical, sexual, verbal, or virtual, should not be condoned, defended, or promoted. For a better society and a better Jamaica, we must work together and reject it. Jamaica is in fact evolving, and women are becoming more empowered every day. Better laws, more public education targeted at both men and women, safer spaces and community interventions are also underway. My commitment is to continue working within the government and the society to cause positive change, and I continue to believe that if we truly support each other, together we can make a difference. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator Samuda.
Mr. President, it is now the intention to take the motion, notice of which I gave earlier. Mr. President, as this Honourable Senate may recall, the Public Procurement Act, which was passed in 2015, was brought into effect by an appointed day of notice along with the Public Procurement Amendment Act 2018 on April 1, 2019. Also promulgated were the Public Procurement Regulations, the Public Procurement Review and Reconsideration Regulations, and the Public Procurement Registration and Classification of Suppliers. Mr. President, the bringing into effect of these pieces of legislation marked a significant milestone in the public procurement landscape in Jamaica, as these laws represent a consolidated tool which anchors the reform of public procurement in this country. It is within this context, Mr. President, that I am pleased to table in the Honourable raise a motion and take the Public Procurement National Development Project Montego Bay Perimeter Road Project Order 2021 and the Public Procurement National Development Project Montego Bay Perimeter Road Project Order 2021 resolution. The tabling of this order and resolution, Mr. President, also marks a milestone in the public procurement landscape of Jamaica, as this order represents the very first order being made pursuant to the Public Procurement Act, which this government is seeking to have affirmed by this Honourable Senate to declare a project a national development project. Mr. President, this order is being made pursuant to the powers granted to the Minister responsible for Finance under Section 3, subsection 3B of the Public Procurement Act. But as background, or by way of background rather, Mr. President, the Cabinet has taken the decision to declare the Montego Bay Perimeter Road Project a national development project. This project was formerly known as the Montego Bay Bypass Project.
Sorry, Senator Samuda. No. I think you need to move for the suspension with standing orders to take the...
President, I move for the suspension of the standing orders to allow me to take the motion, notice of which I gave earlier today.
Retroactively?
Retroactively, President.
Okay, the question is that the Minister be permitted to take the resolution, the motion of which he had been given earlier. Those in favour? Against? You just
procedurally, do you need me to start over, Mr. President?
No, you don't. You just start over by way of a summary as to what you have done so far.
All right. So, Mr. President, the motion before us today is related to a groundbreaking piece of legislation to which is commonly referred to as the Public Procurement Amendment Act 2018 and related to the public procurement regulations. Mr. President, this is the first order generated under this legislative framework, and it relates specifically to the Montego Bay, the project formerly known as the Montego Bay Bypass Project, which we have now dubbed a project of national significance. It is the Montego Bay Perimeter Road Project. Mr. President, the Montego Bay Perimeter Road Project will comprise works relating to 1. The Montego Bay Perimeter Road, 2. The Barnett Street West Green Avenue Road Rehabilitation, the Long Hill Bypass, as well as a comprehensive drainage study of the Montego Bay Bypass. Mr. President, this project is expected to advance development and accelerate economic growth in the area. It is expected that the project will open up new areas up to the south of Montego Bay for further development and expansion. In particular, giving access to lands for housing, considered to be a critical area given the growth in the population of Montego Bay and its surrounding communities. Mr. President, the project is also expected to result in improved accessibility to places of employment and increased productivity for businesses due to reduction in work time lost as a result of traffic congestion. It is also expected that there will be improved access to educational, health, and other services within the space. Mr. President, the government considers this project to be one of significant importance to not only Montego Bay, but to the nation, and so considered it appropriate to seek approval from this Honourable Senate to affirm the order declaring the Montego Bay Perimeter Road Project a national development project. Mr. President, we have done so because we believe in the possibilities of St. James. We have done so because in the spirit of the support of this legislation when it was passed. Mr. President, I will now proceed to do a presentation of the specific provisions of the order. The order is entitled the Public Procurement National Development Project, Montego Bay Perimeter Road Project, Order 2021. Mr. President, the paragraphs of the preamble of the order set out the statutory context within which we are seeking to promulgate the order. The first paragraph of the preamble sets out the definition of the term National Development Project as has been defined in Section 2 of the Public Procurement Act. The second paragraph of the preamble addresses Section 3, subsection 3 of the Public Procurement Act, which sets out certain matters for which the Minister responsible for finance may declare, subject to affirmative resolution, that the Public Procurement Act or any provision of the Act shall not apply. And, Mr. President, this paragraph indicates that the Minister responsible for finance has the authority to make such an order subject to terms and conditions which he may specify. And that is particularly important, Mr. President, and we will revisit those terms. The third paragraph of the preamble, Mr. President, addresses the approval given by the Cabinet for the declaration of a development project known as the Montego Bay Perimeter Road Project to be a national development project to which the Public Procurement Act or any provisions thereof shall not apply. The fourth paragraph of the preamble, Mr. President, relates to the approval of the Houses of Parliament for the declaration of the project as a national development project, which, Mr. President, we are seeking to obtain through the tabling, debating of this order and accompanying resolution in the Honourable Senate, in this Honourable Senate. We then come to the enacting provision, Mr. President, and move on to paragraph 1, which sets out the name of the order. Paragraph 2, Mr. President, defines key terms that are used in the order, such as the HERT-NSTA Trust, the Human Employment and Resource Training and National Service and Training Agency, the Joint Industrial Council, and the name of the project, that is to say, the Montego Bay Perimeter Project, and that it means the development project for the execution of works by China Harbour Engineering Company Limited. This paragraph also sets out the works which will be undertaken under the project, namely works on the Montego Bay Perimeter Road, the Barnett Street West Green Avenue Road rehabilitation, which will include rehabilitation and expansion works. Indeed, the Long Hill bypass to reduce traffic congestion, and a comprehensive drainage study of the Montego bypass area, Mr. President. Paragraph 3 declares that the Public Procurement Act shall not apply to the Montego Bay Perimeter Road, which is a national project. Mr. President, paragraph 4 sets out the conditions that are to attach to the declaration of the Montego Bay Perimeter Road project, a national development project. As this Honourable Senate will observe, Mr. President, the conditions which have been stipulated are indeed aimed at ensuring that the project will engage a significant portion of Jamaican workers, and that those Jamaican workers who are considered suitable candidates will benefit from technology transfer, as well as a transfer of knowledge from the non-national workers who will be involved in the project, Mr. President. That, Mr. President, is truly a groundbreaking. Mr. President, further protection is provided to Jamaican workers on the project as wage payments to Jamaican construction workers employed on the project are made in accordance with the Joint Industrial Council, negotiated standard wage rates and conditions of employment. Also of note, Mr. President, is that the order provides that suitable and available goods and services and components originating from or made in Jamaica should be used in the project works. Mr. President, this is truly a project of national significance. It is a project that will help us to build back stronger. It is a project that we believe will jumpstart the once buoyant economy of Montego Bay, St. James, Mr. President. Mr. President, I would like to reiterate the importance the government attaches to this matter, as we see it as a project which will advance development and enhance economic growth. We have not sought to sacrifice good governance, Mr. President. We have, however, sought to use existing legislation to ensure that the people of Jamaica, the people of Western Jamaica, and indeed the people of St. James can truly achieve their potential, and that this, Mr. President, can function as a springboard. Mr. President, I invite my colleagues to offer their usual constructive commentary as we debate this motion, and I look forward to its subsequent passing this afternoon. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Minister Leader Bunting.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, what are we debating here this afternoon? And it might be best to start by making it clear what we're not debating. There is no disagreement on the desirability and the importance of the Montego Bay Perimeter Road, or what used to be referred to as the Montego Bay Bypass, and the associated works contemplated by the project. There is no disagreement on that. And as much as I expect Senator Sinclair to try and make that the issue, and Minister Samuda, who tends to come with very benign openings and then he does the Jekyll and Hyde transformation in his closing. As much as I expect them both
I'm going to ask Senator Bunting to withdraw the Jekyll and Hyde. I view it more as a Jekyll and Jekyll.
So while it's very easy to anticipate that's what they're going to try and make the debate about. So let me just make it very clear up here. In fact, the very language that was used by the government in the debate, that this has been a project 20 years under discussion, shows that the concept, Senator Brown,
let's go 20 years from
the concept, 20 years carries us back to 2001.
PNP.
And the concept came up and work started under a PNP administration. And we continue to support the Montego Bay bypass or perimeter road project as it's now referred to. But, Mr. President, the government builds roads every year. And the government does need to come with a special resolution to build a new road. That there is a process for that, a procurement process, a budgeting process, etc., that provides for that in the normal course of business. Why do we have this order before us? And the core of it, the core of the order is paragraph 3. It is, and I quote from the order, "It is declared that the Public Procurement Act shall not apply to the Montego Bay Perimeter Road project." That is what this order in reality is about. There are some nice other things that, in the execution of the works, Jamaicans, 90% Jamaican workers for unskilled, note, unskilled construction work, and a minimum of 50% for technical works. Only applies to check, not to any subcontractors used. And then it goes on to talk about technology transfer training. Mr. President, with respect, check has been operating in Jamaica for well over a decade. Yeah. Whatever technology transfer that should take place should have taken place long ago. You don't need 2 decades to have technology transfer. And it goes on with some other things, check must utilize suitable and available goods, services, and components originating from or made in Jamaica. These are really nice things to put in for the PR, but it's unenforceable. There is no regime in place to ensure compliance, or it doesn't even specify what compliance would look like. There's nothing specific. So we know that what the order is about is the sentence in paragraph 3. It is declared that the Public Procurement Act shall not apply to the Montego Bay Perimeter Road project. And in that way, it will circumvent the normal and expected public tendering which would be required for a project of this size. Now, a number of objections have been raised, not just by the opposition. The Master Builders Association, to quote a release they put out yesterday, blasted the decision to bypass public tender. The National Integrity Action, they've written the Integrity Commission requesting an investigation of this project. Their concern is that in keeping with the principal object of the Integrity Commission Act, I quote, to ensure that government contracts are awarded impartially, on merit, and in a financially prudent manner. The objective in turn aligns with that of the Public Procurement Act 2015, quote, to obtain value for money in procurement, end quote, Section 5C. So, Mr. President, by there being no tender, nor competitive bidding in the award of this project to check, and the Public Procurement Commission is thereby excluded from ensuring prudence in the use of public funds, it has caused grave anxiety, not just to these two entities I've mentioned, but to a number of others. The Jamaica Accountability Meter Portal, I heard their executive director on one of the media making these same essential points yesterday. So what the opposition objects to is not the Montego Bay Perimeter Road project, but the approach to circumvent the Public Procurement Act. Mr. President, in the past, I have personally disagreed with the approach of this, of giving check the sole entitlement to billions and billions of projects. However, I have always conceded that there was an argument. While the only funding available to Jamaica, particularly if we go back to that period from 2008-9 when there was the financial crisis, coming up through the 2015-16 period, that there were very limited sources of foreign direct investment available to Jamaica. And if it was a condition of whether the China Exim Bank or the China Development Bank, that their funding was contingent upon using a particular specified Chinese contractor, then even though I didn't agree with it, I would concede that there was an argument to proceed in that way because of the lack of options that the government of Jamaica had. And not only for foreign direct investment, but generally speaking, due to the fiscal constraints in the budget during that period. However, Mr. President, the country has gone through a period of fiscal austerity precisely to move us beyond the position where we were literally beggars so we couldn't be choosers. Successive administrations have demonstrated great fiscal discipline. The public sector workers have made great sacrifice. Many of the holders of public debt went through a number of restructuring of their public debt and haircuts in some cases to be able to allow Jamaica to emerge in a much stronger fiscal position. So strong now that we don't need a foreign entity, whether bilateral or multilateral or private sector, to fund this. We're doing it from our own budget, which is a good thing. But one of the freedoms we now have is that no external party can tie our hands and dictate to us how we're supposed to do the procurement. And therefore, we must now exercise good governance, the type of governance you would exercise at Grace Kennedy, Senator Webby, to ensure that you get the best value for your shareholders and for your customers. It is in this way. And I have no problem. I am sure Grace Kennedy directors and management would have made the best judgment for their shareholders and their stakeholders in terms of tendering and whatever process they went through when they were building their building. Yes. And I am confident that the private sector generally will not have the same problems as the public sector because the interests are very clear. But in the current circumstances, Mr. President, with the COVID-induced recession on the economy, with the additional pandemic-related expenses, value for money must be at the top of mind for this Parliament. Not just because of good governance demands it, but in the interest of hard-pressed taxpayers. We have to ensure we get value for money. If we don't get value for money in this and every case, we won't be able to build the new correctional facilities, Senator Samuda, which we so badly need. And you are going to have such a hard time getting done. You know, Mr. President, I've heard a number of reasons, a number of excuses really, proffered by the Minister of Finance and the Prime Minister about why they need to go down this road. The first one the Minister of Finance spoke to was that CHEC had already done the preparatory design works. And therefore, if they didn't give them the whole project, then it would be unfair to CHEC. What? Well, the opposition leader has already said, what about fairness to the Jamaican taxpayer? That is his more primary concern. But we don't have to be unfair to CHEC. Senator Braham can tell you very well about a similar project where CHEC did design and other preliminary works, and they provided for $1 million to compensate CHEC for that work if they were not chosen and given the project to execute. So it is not uncommon, even in the case of this particular contractor, but generally in government contracting, to separate the design and the preliminary work from the actual contract to construct the work.
The designers of the Parliament, we don't forget the contract.
It is not uncommon. When the first major highway project done in Jamaica, Highway 2000, which the first leg from Kingston to Maypen, those preliminary works were done by consulting engineers and other professionals who were paid for their work. Then the project was put to international competitive tender. I believe at the time there were almost 100 companies that participated at some point. And eventually, Bouygues was chosen to execute the works. So, this idea that because they had done the design, it would be unfair not to give them, that excuse don't hold water, Minister. You could have negotiated a fair payment to them for whatever work that they had done. Let me go to the second excuse that we hear offered. This one, I think, came from the Prime Minister. He said The circumstances as they are now requires direct contracting due to the size and complexity of the project. No, first of all, big projects, as I've said earlier, Highway 2000 went to international competitive tendering. So the size and complexity at that point in time, it was probably the biggest.
It was.
Highway project. Well, it was the first highway project, true highway, 4-lane highway.
They opposed it.
And that didn't stop us from going to international competitive bidding at the time. But I have made this point when they were talking about the UDC was talking about the downtown, what was it called, redevelopment? Yeah. Is that you can do a master plan that might cost $1 billion to execute. But you don't have to choose one contractor to execute the $1 billion. You can break it down into small packages that are well within the reach and capability of local contractors. But you know what this reflects, Mr. President? A different development philosophy. On this side, we don't want to use excuses to exclude, of why we have to exclude Jamaicans, except for the unskilled construction, which we'll give 90% of the work to them. We want the architects, the engineers, the quantity surveyors, the designers, and the contractors as principals, not as subcontractors to a foreign contractor. We want them as principals to be executing this work. That is how you're going to develop your local industry, not by giving them the crumbs that falls from the table. In fact, from what I understand, the St. Thomas leg of the South Coast Highway project, the St. Thomas Portland leg, has been broken down into a number of smaller packages to increase the participation, but again, of subcontractors. The project could have been designed by government from day one, Minister Webby, to have those smaller packages that could be handled by local contractors, designed by local professionals, financed by local pension funds and other financial institutions, because that is what their long-term money would be there for. That is what would cause true development of the local construction industry. The third excuse or reason that was mentioned, which I found very strange. It says, on the matter of transparency, I think this was in response to requests, let us see the project documentation. And the response was, on the matters of transparency, loan and contracting documents are confidential.
Taxpayers' money.
This is taxpayers' money. How can it be confidential? How can this be confidential? This is something that should fall under the scrutiny of Parliament. Yes. It is coming from our consolidated fund, our fiscal budget. How can this be confidential? It is not using any bilateral money or multilateral money where that was a condition. We determine the conditions of this contract, and which government interested in transparency and good governance would financing a project themselves with a contractor right into the contract that they cannot disclose the terms of the contract. That's ludicrous. That's rubbish. The only legitimate reasons for this type of secrecy, the only legitimate reasons for this kind of secrecy would be some national security or diplomatic reason. And even then, it's used more as an excuse. than is needed. But what this approach does is open the door for corruption. This approach opens the door for corruption because there is no opportunity for price discovery. I am sure Senator Webby has seen a number of tenders that Grace Kennedy puts out to different suppliers or contractors. And he would back me up that you will see a range oftentimes of 20% from legitimate suppliers. But for whatever reason, at a particular time, a supplier or a contractor or a service provider will sharpen their pencil and make sure that they bid at a price that they feel they will get the project at. And if that same supplier, contractor, service provider is put into a monopolistic situation, they're now going to price, not necessarily to gouge you, but to make sure that they have a comfortable profit margin that will make their shareholders smile. That's human nature. That's the nature of the market. When you're in a competitive situation, you're going to, squeeze your margins, going to sharpen your pencil, ensure that you give the best price you can. And when you are not in a competitive situation, the converse is true. Mr. President, another excuse given for abandoning competitive procurement is the delay it would cause. Now, for a project that's been under consideration for 20 years, it's interesting that delay is what is now raised to justify it would cause delay. It's been 20 years in the making. But the truth of the matter is what this really reflects is gross negligence in the project planning and preparation. Because you must have known a long time from your doing the design and thing that you would be coming to this phase. You must have put in your public sector investment program what year this project would be funded. You would have known at least a year ahead to start the procurement procedures. You would know a project of this size you could attract international competitors for, international competitive bidders. Particularly through the COVID time, there may have been additional hunger to seek projects where they may not even have been before. But what happens is when we use that as the excuse, is that what we are encouraging is continued poor planning. Which is why Senator Brown, a couple of years ago at the PAC, I think it was to do with the NWA, it was disclosed that the majority of their contracts were given under emergency procurement.
Oh, a permanent emergency.
Emergency procurement guidelines. Petrojam was another one. Emergency procurement guidelines. You can easily, by your own incompetence or design, create emergencies because you have not put a proper planning and procurement process in place. So if that is going to be the excuse, then it can be used for every project that is coming forward. The people fall down, the engineers, the project administrators, the managers, fall down on their work, and suddenly our back is to the wall, so we need to use either no competitive tender process, emergency procurement procedures, whatever it is that opens the door to corruption, that ensures that we will not get value for money. Mr. President, one of the things that has puzzled a lot of economists, certainly over the last 20 years, is that Jamaica has had relatively high investment significant foreign direct investment since 2000, Senator Webby. And yet, we have not seen the growth that one would have expected. One of the reasons for this, and let me just find it, was explained in a study done by the IDB in 2015, I think it was. And it spoke to, let me just see if I can find it here. It spoke to that Jamaica was below our peers in total factor productivity. And we were actually going in the other direction. And one of the reasons for this was that our major investment was taking place in sectors like construction, like telecommunications, like tourism, where there were enclave type investments with weak linkages to the rest of the local economy, and therefore we were not getting the growth that would have been otherwise expected from the level of investment. And, you know, again, this is going to be another example of that. You take a foreign contractor, they have their own equipment, they have their own professionals, the steel is imported, yes, maybe they buy a little cement locally, the asphaltic concrete is imported, most of the fuel that operates the equipment is imported. You have relatively low value added left in Jamaica at the end of the project. Whereas if we had a much greater local input, much greater local participation, our engineers, our architects, our designers, our quantity surveyors, our blasting experts to take the roads through the mountains, etc., we would see much deeper linkages and a much greater contribution to growth in Jamaica. Mr. President, Jamaica has the professionals. Jamaica has the construction professionals. We have the architects, the engineers, the contractors, and the developers who can construct these projects. Even one as large as the Montego Bay bypass or perimeter road, as it's now called, could be done by breaking it into segments. Instead, we see a policy approach to the construction sector, a sector where Jamaica has a long history of Jamaican delivered projects, going back almost to independence, or maybe pre-independence. But because of the current policy we're pursuing, we're reducing Jamaica's participation, certainly in the large government projects, to providing primarily flagmen, drivers, and low-skilled workers. For that reason, Mr. President, while I believe all members in this Senate and in the lower house support the Montego Bay perimeter road project, what we do not support is the procurement process that avoids competitive tendering and has no guarantee of value for money for taxpayers in this country. And I know that my colleagues on the other side, in their hearts, know that what I am saying is true. May it please you.
Thank you very much, Senator Bunting. Senator Gale, you're usually pretty short at this time in the afternoon.
President, you know, President, I I make my contribution in this And this is what this national project development is seeking to do. Create that infrastructural development that is badly needed, one that will enhance the level of productivity, one that will create jobs. And we know that the company that is involved has been involved for a long time. In fact, it spans successive administrations. So it's not new. But given a trade union's perspective, notice Senator Bunting declared that the crux of this order is speaking to just clause 3, and he would have wanted to give the impression that the other areas were just cosmetic. Well, some of the things that are contained in this order was things that the trade unions were clamoring about in your administration, and you failed to deal with it. So don't come here and talk about that we don't need it in an order. The fact that it is now in an order means that the government of today has listened to the trade unions and has responded. President, it is significant.
I'm sorry, the member is entitled to be heard in silence, and I would appreciate the courtesy offered to him so that when your time comes to speak, I can enforce.
Well, President, order. One of the things about me, when I'm speaking passionately about the trade unions, my voice is loud enough.
That's true.
You see, the trade unions who are involved are those that are referenced in page 2 under the Joint Industrial Council. The Bustamante Industrial Trade Union, the National Workers Union, and the Trade Union Congress, and the Incorporated Master Builders Association of Jamaica, representing the employers in the construction industry. I said the trade unions that represent construction workers, those who construction workers have asked to represent them. President, in clause 4, under A, to utilize Jamaican services or labor as follows: a minimum of 90% Jamaican workers for unskilled construction work, and subject to the availability of Jamaican workers with the required technical skills, a minimum of 50% Jamaican workers for technical work. Mr. President, there was no instrument that indicated in any way, shape, or form a percentage of the workforce of labor, of Jamaican workers that would have been used. And this indication of a 90% is the first of any such means. When it made reference to, in B, in collaboration with HART, NSTA Trust developed and implement a training program for the transfer of knowledge and technology. that it says to Jamaican workers not having the required technical skills or suitable candidates to work on projects as an on-the-job trainee under the Knowledge and Technology Transfer Training Program, and 2, from foreign workers having the required skills, technical skills, to Jamaican workers for the foreign workers to transfer those knowledge. President, I recall a discussion I had with my colleague on my right, Senator Webby, when they were developing their own building. For the use of, for these construction workers who are in most cases unskilled, to have just passed through the system and not getting the requisite training, Senator Webby, the support that is going to be provided now through Heart Trust for certification of these workers is commendable. It is commendable. I'm coming to that, you know. I'm coming to that. Mr. President, when it suggests to make wage payments to Jamaican construction workers no less favorable than the standard wage rates and comply with the conditions of employment determined by the Joint Industrial Council. Now, one of the things that we have, those trade unions who represent these workers have always complained about, clamored, walked around the walls of Jericho about, is the fact that this company had demonstrated an unfortunate practice of paying the workers less than the minimum standards that would have been established by the Joint Industrial Council agreement. What this is saying is that it instructs check to afford these workers the minimum standards. And it is the first time that any government has stepped forward to ensure that this is contained in an agreement. Now, I support one fundamental idea, the question of enforcement. And I see it fitting for the government to go further by, at least in the first instance, doing the checks to ensure that these orders are enforced.
That check is checked.
And that check is placed in check. But, Mr. President, I am considering this action by the establishment of a procurement order a watershed moment. We have been clamoring as trade unionists for this for the longest time. We have spoken to successive administration. This administration has heard the call. And so we treat it as being significant. And I dare say that the opposition ought not to, in the scheme of things, appear in one accord by scratching each other's back to demonstrate against it. By scratching each other's back, a figure of speech, by demonstrating against it. Because in the other place, you called to vote against it. There was a divide.
Simply put.
And Mr. President, I am seeing it that in terms of this approach, it is an action, a project, a plan, a strategy to develop Jamaica, to create jobs in Jamaica at a time when jobs are needed. And our responsible approach must be to support this objective and this agenda. I thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Brown, don't say a word till I restore some order in here. Senator Fraser Binns and Scott Motley. Thank you, Senator Gill. Senator Brown.
Mr. President, it's good to speak after my friend, Senator Gill, speaking on behalf of the trade unions. Let me say clearly, this trade unionist is happy that the government has come over to see our point about Jamaican workers getting priority attention on these projects. Just relax. Just relax. The opposition is not opposed to that. Nothing that Senator Bunting said represents an opposition to that. Nothing that Member Golden said elsewhere represents an opposition to that. We are happy that the government has done it. Similarly, with the JIC rate, the Joint Industrial Council rate, we are not opposed to that. We are happy that they see our way in coming to that. That's not where the opposition is. That's not where the opposition is. And nothing wrong if you do something good for us to recognize you're also doing something bad. Yeah. So because you do something good, everything you do is good? No, some of it is bad. Yeah. And that's the bad parts that we are opposed to. Yes. So let us be clear on that. So there's some things, Senator Gill, we are at one hand. But there are some things that are just outrageous not to be done. President, Senator Samuda started off by, well, let me just before I get that. Senator Gill, maybe you recall PART2, that Jamaican workers were sent to China to be trained. Transfer of technology. And it started when we were in government. So this idea that this government is doing some new things and never done before flies in the face of history. Albeit all part closed now, you know. But those people trained, those technical people trained are available to Jamaica. But we made sure that they were trained so that they could play a part there. So we're not just fooled by you give us something, but you take it back when we don't get value for money. And so my friend, I can call him a friend now, Senator Samuda, you said you believe in the potential of St. James. Welcome to the club. The People's National Party and our government, especially over the 18 years, have seen and have contributed to the potential success of St. James and Western Jamaica. Let us not forget that the North Coast Highway, let us not forget that the North Coast Highway, all the way from Negril to Port Antonio, built under P.J. Patterson and the PNP. Let us not forget that that led to new investment in tourism. Iberia Star 3 Hotel, Rio. Secret that, Mas Rani, check the papers. I signed the sale of the land to build Secret Hotel. That was creating jobs for hundreds, thousands of Jamaicans in Western Jamaica. We did that. We did that. We did that. So, if you think, President, of the free port area of Montego Bay, and that old zone to the west, moving Freeport, all of the development, banks going in there, insurance companies going in there. If you check their GDP, if you cut off that Senator Sinclair, that GDP is running amongst the top GDPs in the world. We did that. That expansion of Montego Bay to the west, a lot of that was done under the PNP. The dualization of Howard Cook Highway, done by the PNP. The only thing, the liquid gas system, the LNG terminal put in by us. So we can tell you the things we have done. We put in Senator Gill, 18 new schools. Senator Braham can check the UDC record. We have done a lot for the development. And Senator Samuda, 2 weeks ago you came here about the Montego Bay Airport. Let us remember how that goes. When the government decided that we are going to seek the expansion of the airport, to bring more tourism here, to build more hotels, you know what your side said? Mr. Bruce Golding said that no people will have to pay to come into their own country. And I've noticed your government has taken the same model that was at Montego Bay Airport to sanction to Norman Airport now. You oppose when you're in opposition. Senator Campbell, Rodriguez Campbell, that's what we're talking about. You oppose that when you're in opposition. Not to mention the 2000 highway. Highway 2000. Oppose all the way to the Privy Council. Oppose all the way to the Privy Council. So, there can be no question on anybody's mind about where we stand when it comes to development in Western Jamaica and in Jamaica. It was P.J. Patterson who I first heard the following statement from. The road to development begins with the development of roads. And P.J. Patterson made it clear. The road to development begins with the development of roads. No wonder they call him Mr. Infrastructure. No wonder they call him Mr. Infrastructure. Because we set out to build the infrastructure. Not only that we took a decision on the airports, we took a decision on the ports because we recognized that these were the route to develop in our country.
That's right.
So we invested heavily in the infrastructure. Put another way, we plant the seed for the trees under which you now sit. We plant the trees that provide the comfort for you. Be those trees improving the tax system, improving the infrastructure. We plant the tree, you're now sitting there, but you're going to be seen as a squatter soon. You'll be seen as a squatter soon. No, let him speak when I'm ready now. So we are making it clear where we stand. Mr. President, on the question of highways, the Caribbean Development Bank did a study, published a study in 2017. Started before, published in 2017. They were looking at the highway system. Lessons, Senator Webby, from Jamaica Highway 2000. I commend that study to all of us. But in that study, on page 41 of 48, it says, looking forward, looking back, looking forward, trying to learn some lessons. And it says, looking ahead, NROC is actively planning new toll road projects, including the Montego Bay bypass and extension of the East-West Highway to Williamsfield. And then a very interesting comment is there, Senator Gale, which is where we disagree. It says, there is no evidence of, it's quoting the Contractor General Report of 2007. It says, there is no evidence of impropriety or irregularity in the award and implementation of the concession agreement governing Highway 2000. OCG is satisfied that the Highway 2000 project, as well as the variations to the terms of its implementation, have been executed in accordance with established GOJ procurement standards. So we put Highway 2000, which incidentally was opposed by your side, to the procurement standards. It worked. Senator Webby, thank you for seeing the progress in putting one of your warehouses right on top of Highway 2000. And because it's so close also to the North-South Highway, you have seen the benefit. You recognize the benefit of the decisions we took.
International competitive tender.
So, what we're saying to you is that we would like you, with the Montego Bay bypass, to get the seal of approval from the OCG. That's all we're saying. If we put the OCG in place, sorry? Why we take who to court? Let's put it this way. Whether we took them to court or not, what we said about the North Coast Highway, is that that project was essential. And we have no problem with that. In this one, you're making the choice not to have it subject to the Integrity Commission. And we are saying to you that by passing the procurement rule with this order, you're not doing a good service to Jamaica. You're not doing it, and that's what we are objecting to. What is there for you to oppose the Integrity Commission who oversees how the taxpayers' money is going to run? What is there? We have put the Integrity Commission in place. That is what we're asking for. So it's not 4:30. Yeah, cool.
The time being beyond 4:30.
No.
Time being
4:20. Just say that.
Time being 4:20, Mr. President. Might the standing orders be suspended to allow the Senate to sit beyond 4:30?
No, that's fine. I'm going to do like Matthew and start all over. So, President, we on this side are proud of what we have done in Western Jamaica and the foundation we have laid for more to be done. This has not been against Western Jamaica. In fact, Senator Sinclair, while you and the parochial noise makers down there may want to put that view, the people know differently. So much.
That's a point of order. Can't abuse us like that, Mr. Why are you abusing me, Larry?
Senator Brown, you're referring to your own parish councillors as parochial noisemakers. I don't think they would appreciate it.
Mr. President.
Parochial noisemaker, be quiet, you.
Mr. President, so much so that under our regime, we recognize the limit to Montego Bay growing to the west. We recognize the limit to Montego Bay going to the west. Can't go beyond Hopewell bottleneck. So we took a conscious decision to look to the east. So the growth in housing, for example, in northern Trelawney, is to allow Montego Bay to expand eastward and for people to be able to commute very quickly because of that North Coast Highway which we put in. So there are many citizens, Senator Brian, who traverse from Trelawney, St. Anne's, and beyond into Montego Bay because of the work we did with that North-South Highway. So for anybody to come and to say that we are opposed to Montego Bay development, it's not telling the truth. And such person, Senator Sinclair, would be akin to someone walking into the dining room of this parliament and tell the world that they were in the ladies' room. So let me repeat it. For someone to say that the PNP, by saying we want greater transparency, as civil society is saying, that means that we are opposed to the development of St. James and Western Jamaica. Such a person would be akin to someone saying, sitting in the dining room of this parliament and saying they were in the ladies' room. Thank God for the video system of this parliament. Thank God for the video system of this parliament that made it a big lie. It made it a big lie that they were in the lunchroom. So that's who it is. That is who it would be akin to. And Mr. President, I repeat, the opposition supports the bypass because it started under us. And even if it never started under us, we still support it. Even if it wasn't started under us, we still support it. What we also support, no, and I'm just talking in the alternative that the lawyers here understand. Doesn't mean that we say we didn't start it, just so we're clear. Yeah, because we're talking in the alternative. You wouldn't understand that. You're a nice businessman, you're not a lawyer. So you wouldn't understand the alternative. Right? Talk to Ronnie and he will tell you. Right? Mr. President, we have no opposition to 90% would like it to be more of the laborers being Jamaicans. We have no opposition to at least 50% of the technical people would want it to be more. Right? Mr. President, Senator Gale was silent on the issue of the relationship of the Labor Relations Code. How that apply on this project. And I hope, Senator Gale, you will get the government to accept that if workers are dismissed unjustly, that the contractors must subject themselves to the Labor Relations Code. That's not there. That's an obvious omission. We call for that. This opposition called for a clause in the contract guarantee the LRC, the Labor Relations Code, to be applied in their dealing with the workers. We also call for a statement in there to say that not just check will be bound by the GIC, but when checks subcontract out, every subcontractor will also be bound by the GIC rates. Otherwise, they appear to give you one thing with check, but check say, well, I have no control over the subcontractors. We need to make sure it goes from the top, as Mr. Shearer said, to the bottom. So right now, there are weaknesses there. But that's not what we are opposing. We want those in. What we oppose, let me repeat it again. What we oppose is the procurement process. The procurement process. It doesn't give value for money as it is. That's what we oppose. And when we vote, our vote is not against the highway. We support that. When we vote, our vote is not against the 90%. We support that. Our vote is not against the 50% plus. We support that. Our vote is not against the GIC. We support that. We support a lot of things. But the one bad thing, the one apple that could spoil the bunch, the barrel, the one apple of corruption, and I say it because it opened the door to corruption. Senator Samuda, look at the front page of the Gleaner today. That outrageous contract. That outrageous contract. I don't want more of that. I want our taxpayers' money to be spent wisely. Don't give me more CMUs. Don't give me more Petrojam. Don't give me more Netsal. Don't give me those. So the fact that you're doing something good doesn't mean, Senator Campbell, that you can't be doing something bad. You have not convinced me that the procurement process is good for us. It's bad. For that reason, the opposition is going to oppose the procurement process. And we want it to be clear, our opposition to the procurement process. We oppose to the procurement process. It's bad, it's wrong, it opens a floodgate to corruption, and our country just cannot take any more corruption. So the propagandists can go and say, as she tried to do, that we are opposed to the project. We're not. What we said to you, pause, wheel and come again, and do what was done with Highway 2000. Let the Integrity Commission be the watchdog, not any other way. May it please you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Brown. Senator Campbell, I recognize you from a seat other than your own. You may proceed, please.
Very kind of you, Mr. President. As a certain king of England would say, I shan't be long.
Bunty, you ever hear that before?
I said, yeah, but his difficulty was that he was having a certain difficulty with the lower part of his. Mr. President, I am indeed heartened at the level of concession that Senator Brown has made on that side. So, it's essentially my understanding of where the difficulty arises is where is with the procurement. But we are living in some difficult times. This is not normal times at all. The pandemic has really caused some serious havoc on the economy. And of course, we need to recover. Yes, I understand all of that.
Exactly why I'm going this route.
Yes.
As you know, time is...
There is a pandemic which has caused severe damage to the Jamaican economy, and we must understand that. So in our attempt to recover and recover very quickly, attempts have to be made to put in place systems which will help us in that process. And part of that is to do what we are doing now, which is to take a course with this particular road, which we are declaring a national project. And now understand there is no difficulty with declaring the project a national project. So what we're quarreling about then is the adjectival part of it. So here we are. Did we, the PPC, which is part of our machinery, and the engineering team out of NAA and the other agencies coming together, must determine and establish a price point at which this project is going to cost. Before anything is an RFP, under normal circumstances, would go out, they would say, okay, it is estimated to cost 25 billion. And it is, when it goes out there, it goes to the several contractors. And they can go either 5% or whatever percentage it is above or below. And that is what, when it goes before the PPC, that's a guideline that they use. So to say that we will not get value for money is not true. And that is what the government of Jamaica it's going to hold these technocrats responsible for overseeing the project so that the Jamaican people would get value for their money. Because that's what our system allows us to do. That's what the system allows us to do. To use the technocrats and for them to determine what. But that is what happens under normal circumstances. The technocrats within the ministry, they determine what the cost of the project is going to be. And they are the ones who then say to the PPC, hold on, don't let us get away from the point. What the present system allows for the technocrats in there to determine how much a particular project is going to cost. If the project engineers and so on in the Ministry of Works, Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation decide that this particular project is going to cost $30 billion. And if they were to send it out for international tender, I have been in here, in this chamber, when I've spoken to the head of the PPC and said, what's the time lag between the date when the RFP goes out and the award of contract? The minimum time spent is 18 months. Can we afford to wait 18 months to have a nationally declared project? Well, you may search answered. And the gentleman by the name of E.G. Hunter, he gave us that information before this. That is what applies. And you can check Hansard as to what his answer was in the circumstances when I questioned him. He said it is a minimum of 18 months for any one of those contracts. So here we are. So firstly, you must have the financing in place. You must have the financing in place before any RFP can be sent out. So now, the government has said, yes, okay, we put the financing in place. And we must wait 18 months between the... Well, what ought to be and what is are two different things. So don't let us enter into that debate. Where we are now, we have a pandemic. We want to have a project completed, and we have the system in place to guarantee that we get value for money. So I'd ask you to be guided by those considerations when you're furthering the debate. Well, we can debate why wasn't your nose fixed in a different place? No, that's not how we should debate. The question is, where are we now? We have a pandemic on our hand. We need to rebuild and rebuild stronger. And we need to use all the sources which are available to us. So I commend to you that you forego what I describe as this adjectival, a requirement that we play by rules which have not served us very well in the past. Our development has been stymied by the very rules that we have put in place. It has been stymied. Because the rules in so far as they apply, where we have to wait 18 months from the date of an RFP, hold on, listen, if we use the rules and use them effectively, because this is not something that we're asking as to whether we can do it. The rules which we have made says we can do it, and we are using those very rules, putting it to work, right? So that we cannot afford to wait 18 months for us to go through all of these when we have a system which says to us that the technocrats that we have, the technocrats that will tell us that this thing is going to cost us $30 billion. Yes, and what do we do in those circumstances? Get people working and working quickly so that we can recover and recover strongly. Thanks.
Huh? Come on, Mr. Bunting. Why you keep treating me like that, Senator Bunting? But I don't expect. No, this. No.
The custom is, Senator.
Eh? Come on. I can. You see, my mother taught me well, to say sticks and stones can break my bones, but words will never hurt. I had a good mother, Mr. President. Mr. President, I sat here listening to my colleagues across the floor. And yes, I listened to them and they spoke with wisdom. But I just wanted to start off by just responding quickly to certain things that were said. And what you kept getting from over on that side is that a system that is facilitated under the Procurement Act of 2015, passed by the previous administration, of which members on that side sat in the Senate, sat in the lower house, is a system that is being used. The Jamaica Labour Party administration is putting life to the legislation. They put it in place that allows for what is being done today to be done. Senator Bunting spoke about this perimeter road, and I don't use the term bypass because I don't believe that anyone can bypass Montego Bay. Was in the pipeline for 20 years. That is not how I understand it. There has been several discussions over many years because some persons were of the view that a roadway should have started from out in Salt Marsh in Trelawney. It was just a lot of talk. It is more in recent times, Mr. President, that we got to the specifics of it. And the design and the alignment was done. And in fact, the manual is there. That indicates a date of 2018. And it shows this particular project which we are here to look at and discuss under this particular, the resolution and the order. So this comment about 20 years. And we as an administration intend to move with alacrity to get this project, much needed project, done. And it is wrong, I want to submit, Mr. President, that to say if you use a facility or a system that is allowed by our legislation, you turn around and without more says that there will be no value for money. To say that there will be corruption or otherwise, that is just wrong. Wrong. And I always hear comments come from across that side of the floor, and I keep saying, so a man thinketh, so is he. This administration is not operating in that particular way. Mr. President, without a doubt, and without batting an eyelid, as a Montegonian, and Senator Bunting, that is where I'm coming from, as a Montegonian, a St. James born person, born and bred, I am here to give my full support to the resolution designating the Montego Bay Perimeter Road Project a national development project. And I'm also giving my support to the order which is twinned with it. And I'm certain that if Senator Gabrielle Morris, who is from Montego Bay, stands and speaks, she's going to say that she gives support to it. And if Senator Allen was here, because in her presentation that she made in the Senate, when we were discussing the regulations in relation to the Sangsa International Airport, her comment was that they wanted this particular project to move ahead with alacrity. She's not here today, and I want to believe it is. She probably watching us and cheering. Go Sinclair, go Sinclair. And Mr. President, the discussion came up, yes, in the St. James Municipal Corporation yesterday. And the minority leader seconded the motion to say that he gives support as a Montegonian to this project and the way that the administration is dealing with it.
That party is divided.
And when I watched PBC the other day, Mr. President, Tuesday in this place, and they called for divide. Well, I suppose that is what they were exhibiting, division.
That's more like it.
Because there were several amongst them, persons of long standing, and who are back there by virtue of an event that took place last year. They are back there. Some are here. And they abstain. Yes. And they abstained in spite of the advocacy of the leader of the opposition. The leader of the opposition said, withdraw the order that you have tabled in Parliament. And those who spoke there, and if I follow what I'm hearing from across the floor, that they are opposing, they have an opposition to what is contained within the four corners of the document. So in effect, you're opposing the document, you know.
Point
you are opposing
on a point of
the
order.
document.
On a point of order, Chairman.
Yes.
On a point of order. The member,
1 minute, please, Senator Sinclair. Go ahead, Senator Brown.
The member is misleading.
It is my opinion.
It is not.
We have said consistently.
Senator Brown, that is not a point of order.
We have said
Continue,
consistently.
Sinclair. That is not a point of order. Continue, Sinclair.
Opinion. I'm expressing my opinion, Senator Brown. It is my opinion. Answer, Mr. President. Mr. President, if you have a document, which you cannot amend, right? And, you know, as I said, sticks and stones, Senator Brown, because that's all you do. All right? So, what is contained in the document, the four corners of the document, you seek to want to pick at some, and you say opposing. Or you're going to oppose it. You're opposing the document. Mr. President, the history of Montego Bay, Mr. President, Montego Bay, I'm not stopping you from leaving, Senator Bunting. The city of Montego Bay has grown, and we heard about persons stymieing the growth of Montego Bay. Senator Brown said earlier in his presentation that Montego Bay cannot go to the west. Why? Because of what their administration did with a sewage plant, a sewage plant which was constructed across the lands that were under private ownership, that were slated for development, that there were development plans for. There were development plans for, and they were acquiesced by your administration that today Montegonians are in a debate saying that those sewage ponds should be relocated because it has stymied the growth of Montego Bay. I don't know, that is what has been spoken about. And I'm certain that if you listen to Gabriela Morris, Senator, she will also indicate to you that those are the comments that are made there. Mr. President, with the growth in population in Montego Bay, in the growth
Senator
in population...
Brown, Senator Brown, come on.
The
member is entitled to be heard in silence, and I want to hear what he said.
We as Montegonians are aware Mr. President, of the delays that one experienced. Last week Friday, I got into Moby earlier than I usually do on a Friday. And just to move a distance of about 2.5 miles, it took me in excess of 1 hour moving along the Howard Cook to get to the Fairview complex. It took me that long. And so what we need to do is to move quickly, and it is now time for the perimeter road project to be implemented. That is what Montegonians are calling for. And what the people want is what the government must seek to give them. The comment that was made, Mr. President, the comment that was made as if it was an original comment about roads, and it was said by the Honorable P.J. Patterson. I'm certain that he would say that he wasn't the person who originated that. But that is what you sought to suggest. Mr. President, in the environmental assessment document that touches upon this particular project, it is quoted, "It is well documented that in developing countries, investment in transportation infrastructure generates economic benefits by reducing transportation costs for existing activities, providing access to new areas with economic development potential, and creating investment activities. This proposed highway will meet international standards and requirements of projects of this nature and will alleviate the current traffic problems in the poorly built and insufficient road infrastructure in Montego Bay and its environs." Mr. President, the citizens of Montego Bay and St. James, and I dare say Western Jamaica, look forward to this project. Recently, a recent stakeholders meeting encouraged the government, stakeholders made up of members of the Montego Bay Chamber of Commerce and others, that we were to move with alacrity to get the project off the ground. Mr. President, the Deputy Prime Minister responded to say that, in fact, work on this particular project has started because the design, the acquisitions, land acquisitions, soil testing, and other technical works, environmental studies, community and other stakeholders meetings have been held. And the approval of this resolution and order is important to getting the project done. Mr. President, this administration led by the Honorable Andrew Holness is bold and will undertake huge projects. We have done so in Kingston with the Constant Spring Road and the Hagley Park to Marcus Garvey roadways. Mr. President, work is proceeding on the South Coast Highway and the Maypen to Williamsfield Highway, as well as the Kingston to St. Mary roadway. Mr. President, tractors on the ground is what we need on the Montego Bay perimeter road project. Mr. President, this administration is not a pipeline administration. We are more action, Mr. President, not a bag of mouth. Mr. President, I heard comments made in the other place again, and in which it was said that we're selling out Jamaica. We're selling out Jamaica. That was said by the leader of the opposition. Mr. President, who is it? Who is it, Mr. President, that transferred 1,200 acres of land without obtaining the valuation on any of those lands? That is what we call a sellout of Jamaica and Jamaica's heritage, Mr. President. Mr. President, Mr. President, Mr. President, I hear the comment speaking about Integrity Commission, transparency, OCG, and all those things. I am certain that persons who are on that side were also in this House, in the lower house and in the Senate. And there was something that touched upon then Minister of Finance, Dr. Omar Davis. And what was he seeking to say? What did he say? That the administration of the day would not allow the OCG to be a stumbling block in the pursuit of investment opportunities with private entities. Mr. President, members on that side were in the same place. And that is what came from their Minister of Finance. And so our Honorable Prime Minister, in his presentation on Tuesday, said that he does not mind the Integrity Commission, and the Integrity Commission has a job to do and must do their job. We have strengthened the office of the Integrity Commission, and they have a duty to perform. Let the system work. We have never opposed that, Mr. President. We have never opposed that. Mr. President, whilst I am disappointed with the opposition's response in the lower house and some of the comments that I have heard from here, and the hypocrisy that I want to suggest that I have also heard from here, I am not surprised. It was the same opposition that opposed even the state of emergency that was put in to save lives in St. James and Western Jamaica. Mr. President, it is the same opposition whose president told the people of St. James in 2002, after losing 3 of 4 constituencies in St. James, that its people would suck salt through a wooden spoon. Mr. President, in spite of the unfortunate comment, the people have bided their time, and through effective representation and advocacy of Dr. Harris Chang and Edmund Bartlett, and lately by the Attorney General of Jamaica, Marlene Malawi Fort, Eroy Clark, and Omar Davis, there has been major infrastructure development and human capacity building in St. James and other western parishes. And Mr. President, if you go back into the history of St. James, Montego Freeport had just some small islands. And the connection and what we now have as a prime area in St. James for development was done by a Jamaica Labour Party administration. The Montego Free Zone was done by a Jamaica Labour Party administration. It is that Montego Free Zone which has spawned the BPO sector, which is significant to the economy of Montego Bay and St. James. And Mr. President, if we come to more recent times, the traffic management system with the traffic lights, which now is the infrastructure that supports Jamaica Eye rollout in the city of Montego Bay, done by Labour. Done by which eyes? Check it out, man. Check it out. I will show you the photographs when the lights were turned on and I was in Sam Sharp Square directing traffic. Mr. President, the community improvement and titling projects in Norwood, Flankers, Providence, Barrettown, Lilliput was done by this administration. The improvement of community roads right across the parish. And because we have not gotten to the project which we are discussing today, we use other methods to improve the road surface that connected you from Iron Shore right across the hills of Montego Bay, taking you out to Westgate. The Montego Bay Convention Center, also constructed, groundbroken by the Honorable Bruce Golding, Prime Minister of Jamaica. The Montego Bay Fire Station, Mr. President, which is 95% complete under this administration. The expansion of the Burke Barracks in order to increase the amount of JDF personnel that can be stationed in Montego Bay to help with the crime fight and so forth, done by this administration. The Mount Salem police station. The Mount Salem police station built by this administration. Mr. President, the old hospital park, if you came to Montego Bay, green space never existed. The green space, old hospital park, infrastructural development in Montego Bay. The work being done now, Mr. President, on the expansion of the Sangster International Airport. I want to tell Senator Brown that is what is so. The current work on the expansion of the Sangster International Airport, the expansion of the Montego Bay Freeport, the construction of the School of Excellence and the Caribbean Military Academy to improve the training facilities for people in St. James. The groin restoration that is underway, thanks to the UDC, Senator Graham. The restoration of the Cornwall Regional Hospital, a hospital that was built. Well,
Mr. President,
caused by 18 years lack of maintenance.
Point of order, Mr. President.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator
point of
Sinclair.
order. Mr. President, I was a little preoccupied, and I wondered if you could just remind me what order, what act, what bill Senator Sinclair is speaking to.
I can respond.
It has no relevance, Mr. President. It has no relevance to the matter that is being discussed.
Senator Binns, I'm allowing him to speak because what he's doing is really responding to Senator Brown and Senator Bunting. who gave us a litany of what the PNP did for Montego Bay. So I'm allowing a rebuttal or a response, if you will. Continue.
Mr. Brown, Mr. President, you know, when good things happen on one side and you see the vision and you say, boy, I'm going over here for a long, long, long time, it will hurt. It will hurt. They want me to stop, but I have a little bit more to go. Mr. President, all right, this one is relevant. This one is relevant. Yes. All right. All right. Listen to this one now. Listen to this one. Listen to this one now. Mr. President, the construction of the roadway from Macfield to Ferris. And here the connection to this project. Because it is going to be expanded and it will be continued from Montpelier under this project into Montego Bay. So we will have easy movement between north and south on the western side of Jamaica under this particular project, improving the economies of St. James, improving the economies of St. James, Westmoreland, St. Elizabeth, because it will also allow for the opening up of Westmoreland for further development. So, Mr. President, this project is far-reaching. It is far-reaching. Mr. President, I can go on, but I won't come off this particular bit without saying, Mr. President, a big thank you to the chairman of the UDC. The UDC. And the UDC. And I want to congratulate him for completing in a short time the Harmony Beach Park. Mr. President, that park is a signature project in the parish of St. James. And I keep hearing, I've come here and I've heard Senator Brown seek to claim it. I am going to be fair because the first stakeholders meeting where this was discussed, no plans, nothing existed. In fact, some persons were even suggesting that it was to be used otherwise. I was in the meeting as the mayor of the city of Montego Bay. And if you want the specifics of that, Senator Brown. So, between 2012 and 2016, the discussion on that project went to sleep. The development of the plans, which is now the Harmony Beach Park in Montego Bay, was done after 2016. That is correct. So, when we talk about infrastructural development, of which a Montego Bay road project is a significant one which is going to improve transportation and movement of people, improve on the economy, allow for the expansion of Montego Bay into other areas that were previously not accessible. It's a great project. It is one that every Montegonian should give their support. And there should be no delay by cheap politicking. No delay. No withdrawal of any order.
Point of order, Mr. President.
No withdrawing.
Point of order, Mr. President. Mr. President. The Speaker, if he's adding that last project to the list.
Senator Williams. In fact, it is there as in 19th. It is there as in 19th infrastructure.
Senator Sinclair, I want to put that point of order in some sort of perspective. It is not any better than any of the other points of order that were made today.
Mr. President, in fact, it was here as in 19th major infrastructural project that is being done by this administration in St. James. So when you look at what has been done to improve St. James through infrastructural development that touches upon the lives of people in the parish of St. James and in the wider Western Jamaica, this administration has done its work and done its work well. So, Mr. President, I commend the Honorable Minister of Finance, Dr. Nigel Clark, and this administration for declaring this road project a national development project, and that we must move with all alacrity in getting the project done. I support the resolution and I support the order, if it so pleases you, Mr.
Minister.
You want me to continue?
Mr. President,
thank you very much, Senator Sinclair. Senator Minister Samuda.
I asked to be recognized from a seat. Not
I did
usually
so before, you know.
Oh, well, it wasn't this one, so I was just ensuring that.
No, I said I recognize you from a seat other than your own. I never specified which one.
No worries, President. Just wanted to ensure we didn't have any difficulties. It has indeed been a long day for us this Friday, but I believe we've gotten some good work done and some necessary matters have been put to bed. I also believe that the matter before us this heading to evening is a matter of national importance, President, so it warrants the attention being given to it. Mr. President, I crave your indulgence in allowing us to look a little ways back. I won't dwell, but allow us to start where this began. I rise to applaud the government in bringing this Public Procurement Act to Parliament. And he continues, I have also been concerned about the degree, or rather, it has been a long time in coming, and I have been concerned about the degree of inefficiencies along the way. Continues, I am particularly proud that in this act, the government has singled out national development projects for priority attention, not to be caught in the red tape that procurement procedures can lead to.
Who is that?
And I continue.
That's from the Prime Minister's speech you're quoting?
No, President. I will get there shortly. I'm starting at the beginning. The officials who carry out the procurement process need to recognize that, I thought about this way, Senator Williams, when the donkey fell in the well. I wonder if we had to go through a procurement process. No wonder Jesus had to ask about the Sabbath for a man, or man for the Sabbath. And that's what struck me. The desire is not to get the job done, but to make the end be the procurement process. And I am not knocking the need to avoid corruption. I am knocking the need to avoid inefficiency. But my God, we need to do it better and quicker, and we need to find ways because when I ask myself, would it work in the private sector to put these systems in place? It may not be, but efficiency is what we want, and which is what this bill, I hope, says it wants to do. Mr. President, that wasn't the Prime Minister's words.
Who is that?
That was Senator Lambert Brown in his address on the bill, July 29th, 2015, Mr. President. Now, I know my colleague, Senator Sophia Fraser-Binns, was also in the House, in the Senate, on that evening. And I intend to end the presentation at the beginning where we started, with the sotto voce comments captured by now leader and president of the People's National Party, if you think it's necessary, colleagues. But we will get back to the, we will come back to the beginning, and we will end there. Just to the most important part, because I highlighted it. Because I know my colleague and friend is not a hypocrite. So I am looking for his vote now, because let me remind you what he said. He said, I am particularly proud that in this act, the government has singled out national development projects for priority attention, not to be caught in the red tape that procurement procedures can lead to. Yeah. So colleagues, I know we're short on numbers, but we're going one. Because Senator Brown supports the intent of this legislation for national development projects to be exempt from the normal procurement process.
That's all right. You can't support
so it's always important to know where your support lies before you get into the substance of your presentation. So we know where Senator Brown stands, because you don't walk back on your words, and those are your words, Senator Brown. No, but I am on the floor, Senator Brown.
Those are your words.
And no one on this side has said no to transparency this afternoon, President. No one on this side on Tuesday has said no to transparency. In fact, the Prime Minister, Mr. President, spoke specifically to the maturity of this decision. He spoke to the maturity of the decision, and let us remember what he said, because it is important for the Hansard and for history to recognize that no one suggested that we should not have transparency in a project of this magnitude. In fact, the decision brings about greater transparency. What the Prime Minister actually said, he spoke to the fact that in the bilateral arrangements that would have brought about JDIP and MIDP, there were non-disclosure agreements in those agreements, and that this specific arrangement would see us being able to add transparency, not remove it, colleagues, and that point must be made. So any argument or any suggestion that the Prime Minister has indeed, that the Prime Minister, it is a matter of public record, it is in the Hansard, ladies and gentlemen. The matter is not yet complete. We are debating and we are seeking its affirmation this afternoon. So you have to affirm the project as a national development project, and when the contract is complete, we will publish it. But that is what was said. You misread the Hansard, Senator Bunting, and that's the point I was making to you. So that deals with the issue of transparency as it relates to the statement of the Prime Minister, and we have corrected that matter. As it relates to the matter and the statements from both the Honourable Dr. Nigel Clark and the Most Honourable Prime Minister Andrew Holness, it has been encouraged both in the lower house and in subsequent interviews that the government of Jamaica would have no issues with all the relevant arms of the state, including the Integrity Commission, doing their job and overseeing the good governance and implementation of this project. Now, Mr. President, we're not just asking for good governance. One of the points that the Prime Minister stressed on is the importance for the value of money and the value of the project to benefit the people of Jamaica, and for there to be no issues in terms of the quality. Mr. President, if you'll allow me to quote, because I'm not even going through the substance of what I had intended to, the direction I'd intended to go, as all good hides would. But I will just rebut the issues so that we can put the matter to a vote and close, because I know I have Senator Brown's vote. The issue, and allow me to quote, Mr. President. Madam Speaker, this project will be designed behind what is according to what is called, and let me make sure I have the right terminology, the American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials, so that along, Madam Speaker, with ISO standards, our quality management plan will ensure the quality of the work is guaranteed. Now, that's very important, colleagues. He went on to say it is a mature decision, and this is the part that I expected a little louder applause from my friend and colleague, Senator Bunting. It is a mature decision to come out of a borrowing relationship. It is a mature decision to step out of a bilateral contracting process and going to one where there will be greater transparency than if we had contracted bilaterally, because all of the documents, Madam Speaker, as it relates to the contract, will be public. With pricing oversight, the team that we are putting forward will be a multi-sectoral, fairly broad-based team that can sit opposite the China Harbour people and bring levity, understanding, and reason to prices. This speaks to the value of money, colleagues, and this is the solemn commitment of this administration through our Prime Minister to give the people of Jamaica value for money for this project. Now, I'd planned to touch on some of the other projects we've done in St. James, but admittedly it was a subset of what Senator Sinclair reminded me of. But I think those deal with the two critical issues. But Mr. President, there's an issue that I don't think we have spent enough time or given enough credence to. Every speaker, I believe, on either side has mentioned the importance of the relationship, the bilateral relationship between the government of Jamaica and the government of China, and how important it was for them to invest in Jamaica at a time when friends were few. That relationship, Mr. President, despite the mature decision being taken to not add to our debt stock, and Dan knows the importance of that, the critical importance of us not increasing our debt stock. The decision, Mr. President, is not one to change the project. The decision was not to proceed with the bilateral borrowing arrangement, which said that we were going to finance the project ourselves. But commitments were given in good faith, Mr. President, that we would have executed the project in a particular way, and China Harbour would have gone down a road and executed several phases of the planning process, Mr. President. And Jamaica is a country that stands by its word and its commitments. Now, Mr. President, the leader, well, no, I'll come to that in a second, because I'm wrapping up now. We need to be clear, Senator Bunting, and I take you back to comments you made in 2017 when you were, I hope I get in the date right and not misquoting you, but you can correct me if I'm wrong. The concerns that were raised about the economic risks, I think you referred to it as economic colonialism, because of the path and the engagement that that was underway with the Chinese contractors at the time. Because we had an exchange at the time about it. Well, I would have thought, based on those comments, that you first would have applauded loudest because of your strong position then. Well, vote for the project this evening, Senator Bunting. No, well, I know Senator Brown behind you is voting for the project because he's not a hypocrite. And he has a good memory. So I know he's voting for the project this evening. But colleagues, this government, and I'm closing, this government has always done what it believes is in the best interest of the people of Jamaica. The people of Western Jamaica in particular know that we have always done what we believe is best for their infrastructure, for the housing stock, for the road stock, for the security infrastructure requirements, for the education requirements, and what we believe will trigger the private investments. And in this case, Mr. President, naming this project a national development project is critical because it is what is best for the people of St. James, best for the people of Western Jamaica, and best for the rest of Jamaicans. It is precisely why, when Senator Brown was making those comments, and when you look back at the tapes, yes, Lamy, is what you hear in the background, because the support was there and the understanding that a requirement was there for national development projects to clear red tape, especially when these projects create the opportunity for the economic growth and the increase in capacity that this project will indeed create. Well, let me put it to you this way. Mr. President, one thing I know with this government is that where there are errors, action is taken, and accountability is a facet and a pillar of this government. And because that is so, Mr. President, I have no confidence issues. I have no confidence issues, Mr. President, in putting this project for the consideration through the motion before us this afternoon, Mr. President, for the consideration of colleagues, because I know my colleagues on this side and I know my colleagues on that side are not hypocrites, and they will do what is best for the people of St. James and Western Jamaica this evening, and they will support the national designation for the project. I thank you, Mr. President, and commend the motion for
Thank you, Minister Samuda. The question is that the motion, notice of which the Minister had given earlier, the Public Procurement National Development Project, Montego Bay Perimeter Road Project, Order 2021, be approved. All in favor? Aye. Against? Ayes have it. Minister?
Mr. President, it was not intended to do any further business of the day, but I am Sophia Fraser.
It's not intended.
Senator Binns was asking for more business, so I thought she had something on the agenda.
But
no, Mr. President, it is
Minister,
not intended.
There was something else to do, but in discussion with the leader, we are going to adjourn. Yes, so you can move the motion for the adjournment.
With that said, Mr. President, I ask that the Senate be adjourned for a date to be fixed.
Thank you very much. The question is that the Senate be adjourned for a date to be fixed. Those in favor? Aye. Against? This Honourable Senate now stands adjourned for a date to be fixed.